from here. And before I start, first I'm not very sure I deserve all the good words. I'm pretty young and still on the starting of my career, so with due humbleness and gratefulness, I should take up all the good words. Thank you for the opportunity given. So, what I'd like to cover probably next 30 minutes is I don't want to go into the subjectual details. That's going to be probably talked much in detail by experts coming down the line on the individual subjects. But I thought I can give you a general perspective from the industry front. How is the industry, what's happening in the Indian IT scenario, more from the trenches point of view than from an academic perspective. And in that, when the organizers invited me, I was pretty happy to come forward to this because one, it's a break from the routine office life and the project deliverables. Second, it gives an understanding on what's happening in the academic field. Though as students, even when I was doing my engineering, I was supposed to think the syllabus and what the market practices is quite different. But I was glad to note from your chairman that a lot of latest technologies have also been included in your curriculum. But still, as students, we will feel that what the industry uses is probably a latest operating system or a latest technology. But in reality, if you look at in the academic field, what you're doing is using technologies that are more mature and then using technologies that are 10 years, 20 years from down the line. Because industry more works on a quarter-to-quarter basis or from a year-to-year or a version-to-version basis. That needs to be a longer vision. That's what these conferences actually provide. In terms of Microsoft has a huge research investment in the country. There is a huge Microsoft research organization in Bangalore recently put up. And that does a lot of work on technology, not in the upcoming versions of Windows like Vista or even the Blackcomb or the next versions of Longman Server. But it's more going to look at operating system, not even operating system, and ways people interact with computers. So it's probably 10 years, 20 years down the line. How is the industry going to work? How people are going to use computers? And one of the things promised by many people about this voice recognition and computers recognizing your voice and activating your Star Trek day. But still it doesn't come up because there have been problems in terms of the algorithms in natural language processing. Huge strides have been made. Probably the next couple of years it will see the end of the line. And a lot of things, and so those kind of research, Indian language research, a lot is done by in Microsoft Research India, where there's a lot of work to be done, including OCR, character recognition or voice recognition in Indian language. That's a huge area, because one of the things I firmly believe personally is that the personal computer revolution is one, but mobile revolution is the biggest. That's what is happening in the country. So you need 1 billion people. They are not going to buy PCs. They're going to buy mobile phones, and that's the most powerful computers that they will have on their hands. It's like if you look at a mobile phone today, I carry, or even if you carry, that's got more processing power than my 386SX that I bought some 10, 15 or 20 years back. It's got more memory. Your ordinary phones now carry at least 16, 32 MB of RAM, and you can keep upgrading. So that's the kind of phenomenal amount of computing power you have on your mobile phone. So today the applications and the software don't take advantage of those. We only scratch the surface in terms of using the hardware. And always the hardware goes first and the software has to follow it up. And India has been very good in software, but the more growth is actually going to come up from the software revolution, the innovation, writing new products, etc. So in that, coming back to the topic, I wanted to talk about two things rather. One, that's the biggest plus India has got about now. And with all this, if you look at it, whether from a point of whether it can sustain, some of you might be a first year graduate student, next 2 years, 3 years, after you graduate, is this growth going to be there? The amount of salary growth may not be there, but definitely the IT industry growth is definitely there to sustain, because even by NASSCOM reports, the global IT pie that India is taking is only less than 5%. So there is still 95% of IT business that India can take for, even other countries can start sharing. And the key things, if you look at in terms of sustainability, can this sustain? That's one of the biggest questions each of us have in the industry. There are 3-4 key things why India can sustain its IT growth. One, productivity, and the complexity of the software solutions that Indian IT companies are now handling. You take TCS, Wipros or Infosys or Cognizant, any of the major IT players, the amount of complex work that they are doing on an enterprise for the US companies or abroad companies or for even Indian companies is phenomenal. Some of the companies you go in, they have your customer branches in those companies literally, and they have a build and operate model where a huge amount of complex business applications are being done by a lot of years for the other countries to catch up. But at the same time, it's not a time for us to be complacent about. But these are assuring points that people recognize that India is much ahead of other countries. It's a collective ecosystem. It's not something that Microsoft or IBM or Infosys or TCS can alone are doing. It's the smaller companies, the smaller ecosystem. India has got about 4,000 to 5,000 SME companies in the IT industry who are actually contributing to 80% of Indian IT exports. So it's the SMEs that who are powering it, and that's where innovation and niche play. Innovation is much faster on a smaller and a medium sized company, and there are 4,000 of them across the country who are recognized by STPA and NASSCOM and things like that. So huge productivity growth. And the third important point is how fast Indian companies are able to ramp up fresh graduates into that. That's a phenomenal amount of advantage that we have. In my company at Vishwas, we take about 3 months to get a fresh graduate nearly up to speed onto a professional project level where they can join us and associate with a developer on a live project and start working. And that's huge compared to what it takes in abroad. And that also proves the amount of willingness students come out of college to learn things that they are practicing in the industry, because a lot of things are very different and it varies from companies to companies. So the productivity, the time to learn, time to make them train on technologies is phenomenal. And that aspect, don't think your learning ends after you graduate. It only starts and you join. As I said, each company have their own training programs, right, from 3 months to 6 months, or even some companies have it about a year, depending upon the complexity and the nature of work those companies do. So productivity, the training, ramping up of resources, and also the depth to the enterprises that Indian companies have gone is again phenomenal. Last but not the least is going to be a cost advantage, which the gap is still narrowing, but don't take it light. And that's the main reason for me these conferences are very attractive. It gives a chance for you to talk in front of about 50-100 people, and that's what you are expected to do in the industry. It's very ordinary for people like me who are into evangelism to go and talk to an audience of about 500 people, 1,000 people, and you have to keep them waiting. I can take 5 minutes questions.
From a fresher, what kind of skills are they expected other than the soft language skills?
You're more talking about the computer skills. Okay. See, the biggest thing we look for in the industry, what I feel personally today it's lacking is the basic algorithm skills are pretty much lacking from the fresh graduates. And Professor Krishnamurthy was highlighting a couple of algorithms, and some of the students have not even heard about it. It's pretty surprising that I've seen the computer science engineering students, and you go and talk to them about an optimization, a caching technology, they don't know what algorithm to use. They come back and tell me, sir, there's no API for this in .NET 1.1. If you give me .NET 2.0, I can use it. But that's more an excuse, and they don't think about caching, they don't think about performance till the last minute. And two things can't be reverse engineered at the last minute or retrofitted. Like your car, one is performance, second one is security. Two things cannot be retrofitted. So if you look at it in case of Microsoft, Windows XP SP2 was a completely major re-engineering for Microsoft. So that's one of the reasons why Vista of the core operating system. And that was trying to retrofit security on the product, not retrofit, more engineer that, which is an extremely complex effort. So I had to learn assembly language because that's the only way. I started doing Windows programming, C++, but then I didn't understand how many things work. So I stepped back, went into assembly, learned it, then came to C, then learned C++. That people are not doing, students are not willing to take that effort. They are saying, it's not there in the API and I don't want to do it. Knowledge. There are, as Abdul Kalam in one of his speeches said, there are bounds of amount of human knowledge outside internet searches. They only search about 2% to 5% of the knowledge. That's a huge research work again happening in Microsoft research labs on how to improve. Culturally, we learned after the project got over, Japanese don't say wrong. Okay, it's culturally, they think it's very demeaning to say you have done it wrong. But he is the customer. He's got it right to. He's paying you money for a job he wants to be done, and you do it wrong. He doesn't say it wrong. For him to have done those 3 web pages would have taken him probably 3 days. This documentation would have taken him 3 weeks. But he prepared those documentation, and that's again, it's a cultural documentation. I'm very good in coding. I should only be coding. No, please. You're not paid only for coding. You're paid for reading the documentation. You're paid for writing documentation. So those are your deliverables. Nobody else will do that. It's not a scavenging work that has to be left to somebody work. It's part of your deliverables. So those are some learnings you should keep your expectations right in that front. And the third biggest thing, again, Japanese don't say no, and our Indian engineers never say the correct time. Impossible to get a correct time frame from them. So as managers, that's the biggest problem. You'll have to buffer time. Yes. Hats off to Americans for being great managers. We can't manage people. We are always like to be subordinates to somebody who manages us. So those are things. Be assertive, good communication skills, cultural differences, and above all, time management. And these are not only MNCs. Every Indian company, every Indian IT company requires it. And now that's the trend with any Indian industry you take, because you take Mahindra and Mahindra, they are global now. There are no more manufacturing tractors only for India. There are tractors run in the US, there are tractors run in Russia. So every Indian global companies today require these cultural differences. So those are the things you should actually be looking for. Somebody should be telling me when I running out of time. I'll take probably one question. Okay. So you don't feel to say no or stop. It's enough. Code. But anyway, the idea is my interactions with folks at Microsoft. There's phenomenal amount of interaction Microsoft as a company does with hardware companies. So Microsoft, which works on hardware, but those are not taken to market by Microsoft, because Microsoft is not, as you said, an hardware company. But these innovations are given to companies like Intel, IBM's, HP's, and so on and so forth, who make PCs and computers. So Microsoft does work with hardware engineers, because only the hardware, the software has to follow the hardware in terms of. Listen, I just touched upon my point on SP2, but worldwide, after the internet, especially the last 3, 4, 5 years, the way software has been developed is completely changed. Service-oriented applications. So no more, say 5, 10 years back, the first applications I wrote in, say, Clipper Summer 86, you could be writing an invoicing application that's standalone, that doesn't interact with anybody else. The only interaction it had was with your keyboard and your mouse. Not even mouse, with just your keyboards. So no need to worry about security. Those are the danger, and security risks are also phenomenal. Every application is available on the internet. So the main point I'm driving is right from your design levels, people do something called as a threat modeling right at the design stage nowadays. That's really a huge topic. I'm not sure how much is covered in the syllabuses, but threat modeling is a completely different thing that a lot of expert people are coming up with. That we do at every stage, and then at release we do security stress test and all that. And coming back to on the first question, getting people to think threat modeling is extremely difficult. I can't take somebody and reverse engineer his mind to think about threat modeling. I just can't do that. People say, okay, I've built this, it's perfect, it'll all work. And have you thought about this input? No. Why? Sir, I don't see any way people will type that input. That's not the point. If they manage to type it, today there is only internet, today there is only one way of getting input into your data. Tomorrow you will have to elevate your privileges to do that. So those are some, and also there is human social engineering aspects that people talk about. You get an email that says, I'm in Nigeria, I've got $1 million left out by some general, please click on this link. You click on it, no software can help you. That's more social engineering. Okay, nobody is going to give.
Now, Professor P. Ramachandran, Principal, JCET, will now release the souvenir.